Hey everybody, this is Jomo. I got C Hall with me, and we're gonna talk about his Merfolk deck. So it's pretty standard. So here it is. So we'll go card by card, starting with the spells. Let's look at Aether Vial. Why is Aether Vial so important?
You usually want to get that play at turn one, unless you can already swarm them with just a lot of creatures. Now with Aether Vial, usually you want to play it your first turn, but careful, it could easily be countered with another Daze or Force Will or something that counters turn one or turn zero.
Yeah,
And you generally want to keep it on two counterpoints on it because most of the creature bases is 2 mana to play. So unless for some reason you have good 3 mana base Merfolk, which could be between Meryl Region, Merfolk Sovereign, or True Name Nemesis if you've been able to luckily get that if you don't want that countered. That's pretty much the good uses for Aether Vial, and it's good with using with Meryl Region, and I'll explain why later when we get to that.
yeah. And I mean, just in Legacy, it's like one of those cards that is a staple, and it's really good in any aggro deck, really. So then after that, let's see what other spells. There's Dismember.
For right now, I'm just running 2 of them, but it's good for the get rid of creatures of the opponents. However, you're going to be using 4 life just to get rid of their creature because of the since you don't run anything that's swamp basis. It's purely mono blue.
You have to pay that life. It's kind of a double-edged sword, but it can definitely pay off. And then Force of Will.
For right now, only running 3 because it gives me options on something else I can run, like for example with Dismember.
Mm-hmm.
So because if I run 4, because I'm already gonna be getting rid of something in the process when I run Force of Will, but it's very win conditional.
Right. So there's that, and then there's the 4 days.
Which is pretty standard.
Pretty
You
standard.
usually want to use it early on because if you use it towards late game and they still have enough lands or mana to produce, then Days becomes very useless.
Yeah, it's one of those cards that's more useful in the end. Although later on you can pitch it to Force of Will.
True.
Anyway, yeah. So then there's also 4 Ponders.
Now, before I used to run 3 Standstill, but the only problem is sometimes I can't play my other Merfolk since most of them are 2 mana to play with islands. So if I run into trouble with Ponder, run into trouble with not getting enough lands, Ponder allows me to see whether I can get more islands out, get a Mutavault to give me a win condition, or if I want or if I want to shuffle my deck and get something else out there if I don't like the 3 top cards. So Ponder's always good to have. There's always Brainstorm, but I'm not running fetch lands for one. Two, Brainstorm can be useful since it's an instant, so I can use it at any time. Say if I need to counter something from someone else by hoping to draw a Force of Will or Daze or something. But in the end, for right now, it looks like the meta has Ponder as the better card at the moment.
Mm-hmm. So there you have it. That's the whole thing there. And now I believe we have the creature base. So let's go to the creature base. So start with the lords maybe. Matt, which one is this? Lord of Atlantis.
So it's all other Merfolk get the +1/+1 in Island Walk. So if you want your Lord of Atlantis or any of your other lords to have Island Walk, you need to make sure you have a second Lord so that way they get affected with the Island Walk.
Mm-hmm.
Because say if you only have one Lord out, someone can get rid of that Lord and that messes you up a lot.
Yeah, and Merfolk runs a lot of powerful lords. That's what
And
makes him good.
then Master of Pearl Trident, basically another Lord of Atlantis, which was a nice reprint from M13.
All right, cool. And
Meryl Region. Now here's a very important lord. Granted, it is 3 mana, but it's 2 colorless and 1 island, so that helps you. So you only need 1 island to play it. Now, granted, yes, it is a good lord with the +1/+1, but it's also good for combo, disrupting other enemy creatures, so that way they can't block you. Or say, for example, um, with Aether Vial, if I have 2 counters on it, I use it to get a Silver Gill out. I draw. Then from my hand, I play a Curse Catcher. Then I could since I'm actually playing that from my hand using lands, I could untap an Aether Vial because of Meryl Regent's ability and get another 2 mana creature out. So that's
Basically helps you swarm.
yeah.
Yep. Alright, and then Curse Catcher, which you just mentioned.
Curse Catcher is pretty much a creature that's like Daze.
Nice utility card, 1 mana, 1/1.
It's be a very good beater with Lord, so you generally want to get that like turn 1-2, depending on how you play your Aether Vial or what other spell base you have.
And then there's Silver Gill Adept.
Now, here's the good thing with Silver Gill Adept. If you use it with Aether Vial, you don't have to show a Merfolk or pay 3 mana if you do not have a Merfolk in your hand. Generally, you want to have a Merfolk in your hand when you play this card.
Yeah, that's definitely good to know. Okay, and then lastly we have Coral Helm Commander.
This is for right now what I have at the moment, but it can become a good flyer beater, and also when you get to level 4, it becomes a Lord, and itself it becomes stronger. At first it starts off as a 2/2, becomes a 3/3 once it's level 2, plus it gains the fly. Then once it's level 3, it has the fly, it's a 4/4, and it's a Lord. So in a sense, I'm running 16 Lords.
Yep.
No, sorry, 15 because I'm only running 3 Coral Helms.
But yeah, definitely a valuable card. Just gets stronger and stronger. So now there's just 2 different types of lands. We've got Mutavault,
which right now I'm running a play setup since it's fine with Ponder, unless for some god reason I seem to have trouble with if I keep getting mana clumped or not enough islands, I can always take 1 out and put an extra island in and keep using the Ponders, because Ponders is really good for whether you need lands, creatures, basically whatever is not in your hand, and allows you to get the extra step.
And we were actually just talking about that, running 3 versus running 4. Maybe if you have an opinion on this, let us know. Anyway, moving on, there's 3 Wasteland.
I mean, for right now I wasn't able to get the 4th, but I don't think Merfolk necessarily needs 4 Wastelands, because it's already as is running the 4 Mutavaults. So if you run the 4 Wastelands, you're going to be already right there with only 12 islands. So you have to really get lucky. So getting rid of 1 Wasteland allows for an extra island. So right now it's 13 islands, so a total of 20 lands for producing mana.
Alright, and so yeah, that's it. That's Merfolk. So thanks, and we'll try to do more deck techs and things like this. Alright, real quick guys, we forgot to do the sideboard, but we're going to do it real quick. Now keep in mind, each sideboard is going to be tuned to a specific metagame, and we're just playing locals, Friday Night Magic, and this is kind of what is going to work best for us, given our situation. So sideboards, they're like that. They can fluctuate, they can change. Anyway, into the sideboard. 3 Relic of Progenitus.
So that's used for graveyard, of course. So
yeah, graveyard hate.
Plus reasons instead of what's the other artifact instead of
there's
Relic?
Grafdiggers. Right. There's Tremod's Crypt.
Tremod's Crypt. It was either 3 Tremod's Crypt or 3 Relic, but 3 Relic Progenitus allows for the extra draw power. So that was my take on that.
Yeah, and I think Relic is reusable, albeit a little slower.
A little slower, but you can still reuse it. Get rid of the major creatures or whatever is not there that you don't want.
And then we have 2 Pithing Needles.
Pithing Needle or Phyrexian Revoker, but Merfolk, I mean, since it's a Merfolk deck, there's no need to run a Phyrexian Revoker because that's a creature. It
just doesn't fit.
No, so.
And Pithing Needle is a utility card. It really gets a lot of things.
Plus, you could still use Pithing Needle on lands such as like Karagas. I believe you can use it on fetch lands, but you have to like call it out before they get it off. So
yeah,
that's slightly risky. But at least on a Karagas, Richard Port,
Planeswalkers.
There's
so many targets for it.
Stoneforge. I believe you can also use it on equipment too. Correct us if we're wrong on that, but
yeah, like a Batter Skull, and then they can't return it.
You can't return it, can't equip it. So especially say if you use it on GT or like Fire and Ice, Light and Shadow, Feast and Famine. Those are the 3 main swords of cards.
Good stuff. Okay, and then back to basics too.
So it's an enchantment. It's 2 mana, 1 island to play. So since this is a pretty much a monocolored deck, and the only lands I have to deal with on my own are Mutavault or Wasteland, but by then, so if I'm playing any decks that are using, like, say, Infinity, multicolor,
Heavy non-basics, right? They're going to
You're
suffer
right.
a lot more than you,
oh yeah,
and that's why it's in there. Just can really, really mess up certain decks.
now the next card we have here is Blue Elemental Blast. So obviously against red cards.
Just a
So
little bit
such
of
as
red
like
hate.
Burn. You could use against Jund as long as it's red, green, whatever, black.
Yeah, Rug Delver maybe. It's just useful to have some red hate. And what's this next one?
We have
Hercule's Recall.
Oracle's Recall. Okay, this is a pretty decent instant to use. You could use it on Infinity, any decks that use equipment. So, like say Death and Taxes that has Stoneforge brings out what do you call it? The different equipment swords,
Yeah.
or even use it on opposing Aether Vials. So even use it against an Amir match against Merfolk. So
Quite useful.
So it gets rid of their stuff.
Alright, next, Spell Pierce.
So say if you're running against a deck that's not even going aggro or very few creatures, Spell Pierce helps to, like, say use it with a Dazed or Curse Catcher. So say if they have too much mana, they have the one to pay for Dazed or Curse Catcher, Spell Pierce, well, helps in that instance.
Or you might just need more counters. Maybe
Yeah,
against
true.
like combo.
Yeah,
I mean, there's obviously better options.
but the
against
only
combo,
problem is
but-
you can't use against creatures, so it has to be mostly against a deck that's not using very many creatures.
Right.
But
Okay.
either way, it's another counter. Now, the two creatures we have here. Kira, Great Glass Spinner. Granted, it's not a merfolk, but it's still a decent flyer if you need something to fly around. And it protects all your creatures during, it should be during that turn. So, the point with Kira is to not be targeted by removal. Creatures can still be countered because it hasn't hit the field yet, so Kira does not help prevent counters. But removal such as Swords of Plowshare, Path to Exile, Abrupt Decay, that should be the main
Spot removal, basically.
Those are pretty much the main removal ones.
The only thing I think it still leaves it vulnerable to board wipes.
Yeah,
But
board
it's
wipe
still-
because
it's still
board
useful.
wipes targets all creatures, not just a specific creature.
Yeah.
And the last creature, God help me, I'm pronouncing that name.
It's Lawan Cephalad Empress. There we
Yeah,
go. Or something
thank
like
you.
that.
Usually this is mostly used against opposing merfolk decks, unless there's any other blue base decks that uses heavy creatures, or say like, can't really use against Delver because it's only 4 blue creatures.
Yeah. So,
So-
mostly for like a mirror,
Yeah, it's mostly a mirror matchup.
but it's definitely strong.
Now, the only way to really get this off is either from your Aether Vial so it can't be countered, or make sure you have a counter in hand, like Force of Will. Because if you do not, you're most likely going to lose this card.
Yeah, so, it's one of those cards where you don't want to just cast it any time, but if you can get it off, you can most certainly.
It's a win condition.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's the sideboard, and that's pretty much all we have to say. So, yeah, thanks again.